I just firstly say thank you so much for coming out here to the station. I've come here today on Farmers Day, and it's pretty clear to me the message that the farmers want to send the government, which is they feel that they're being treated as villains and they're not being treated well. It's been great to be able to walk around and talk to a number of people, and the messages are pretty similar to what we hear across the country, which is that people are really struggling with the cost of living and rapidly rising interest rates. They're deeply concerned here in the Hawke's Bay around rising levels of crime and particularly the influence of gangs. They're also worried about health and education and housing. But again, our farmers are feeling that the government is treating them as villains. And yet this is an industry that does amazing things for our country. Every man, woman and child in New Zealand, they generate almost $10,000 for New Zealand. So it's a fantastic industry. We want to celebrate it. We want to back our farmers. National backs our farmers. And the country should back our farmers like we back the All Blacks and the world's best. And with that, happy to take questions.
Yeah, just on the farmers, what do you make of the Groundswell protest today around the country?
Oh, look, it's symptomatic of immense frustration. You know, it's not just agricultural emissions pricing, it's actually a series of unworkable and impractical regulations and legislation that the government has dished up to farmers since they came to power.
How much resources do we spike?
Look, I mean, we've now got a date. I think it's December the 10th that we've got the by-election ready to go. It's a tough fight because, you know, the Labour Party has a massive majority in Hamilton West. But we're going to take it, we're going to make our case as strong as we can. We're going to take nothing for granted. We're going to earn the trust of the people of Hamilton West. So look forward to the campaign.
How important is it for National? How symbolic is that seat for you?
Well, look, it's a seat that the Labour Party hold with a massive majority. In fact, they have a bigger majority in Hamilton West than they have here in Napier or on the West Coast. And so it's not easy, but we're not going to take it for granted. We're going to work hard, make our case to the people of Hamilton West. And at the end of the day, they're struggling with the same things that all New Zealanders are struggling with. Economically, we're going backwards. Our healthcare system's falling apart. Our education system is really struggling. Our housing crisis hasn't been fixed, and we've got rapidly rising levels of crime. Those are the issues that matter most to New Zealanders.
Do you think drug use should be treated as a criminal issue or a health issue?
Well, look, we had that conversation as a country through the referendum, 2 years ago, and that issue is largely settled.
What do you? When will you meet the Auckland Mayor Wayne Brown? Have you spoken to him yet?
Yeah, look, I've actually corresponded with him on his victory, and he and I have met before, and we know each other well, and I'm very supportive of what he's doing there. He's got a lot of work on his plate around sorting out Auckland, and we've got a relationship where he'll just call me and I'll call him if we want to discuss stuff.
Right, and what do you make of his approach to the mayoralty?
Well, I think he's off to a good start. I mean, he's got to do a big turnaround job in Auckland and get it sorted. I like the work that he did on pushing back on the Three Waters. I fully support what he's done there, and actually saying, look, he wants to stop it before it becomes more. And I think many other mayors across the country feel exactly the same way. You know, Three Waters is something that the people of New Zealand don't want, and all councils and mayors, by and large, don't want either.
So, stopping that going forward?
Oh, we've said very strongly, you'll look at the billboard signs up and down this country, National will repeal and replace the Three Waters.
Equal Pay Act anniversary today, still lots more to work on. How would you ensure people are paid fairly regardless of race or gender?
Yeah, look, I mean, it's something I know well from my Air New Zealand days. That was, when I started, there was a disparity between male and women and men, doing the same job. It's actually quite easy to fix up. You just have to do the work and actually make sure that the pay rates are aligned. I have a son and a daughter. I want them paid exactly the same, doing exactly the same amount of work, and so there's a lot more for us to do. I think many large companies are actually already doing a good job and should be. And the thing I'd say to all businesses out there is that we are in a war for talent. There is job shortages in every sector and in every part of this country and in every organisation. If you want to hang on to good people, you've got to sort out pay parity.
Have you tasted a horse yet?
Not yet, actually. Looking forward to hopefully doing this after I catch up with you guys. But no, it's been a really fantastic day, and it's just interesting, as you talk to people, young people, older people, everyone's feeling, the huge pressure economically the country's going through.
Chris, on the protests around the country today, there's none here today, but obviously the Groundswell have organised them right across the country for that emissions scheme. If Nationals are elected next year, would you look to dump that scheme or change it in any way? What are your thoughts there?
Well, look, I mean, we're deeply committed to net zero by 2050 as a party. We want to manage our agricultural emissions. We ultimately have to find a pathway to pricing agricultural emissions. But we should do that and the industry and the sector should lead that, not the government doing it top down in a poor way as they've done. and we should make sure that we are pacing that change with the technological advances that are coming through. And so that's been our position, remains our position. What has happened here is the government made a pretty strong intervention last week, which essentially said that up to 1/5 of all sheep and beef farmers could be reduced and go away within the next 7 years. The problem with that is it's got massive economic impacts for New Zealand. This is an industry that's very important to us. It will destroy regional communities, and importantly, it really causes massive distress for individual farmers and their individual livelihoods on farm. We're also the best farmers in the world and the most emissions efficient farmers in the world, and we feed 40 million people. And so by doing something like that, all we're doing is while we lower emissions in New Zealand, we raise emissions in other countries that are less efficient on less efficient farms, and that just actually worsens the emissions problem we have for the globe. So there's a real major set of challenges that the government's got. We don't support them whatsoever. We back our farmers, we trust the sector to have consensus to find a pathway through.
So what would you be doing differently?
Oh, well, as I said, we work with the sector to get consensus within the sector to get the pacing of changes needed.
Isn't that what they are doing already?
No, it's not. It's exactly not what they're
They
doing.
have vehicles on the board of what they're working on?
What the government's come out with is something completely not supported by the sector. They have come out and said we're going to destroy sheep and beef farmers, a fifth of them by 7 years. They've said they're going to move the emissions overseas, and that's going to worsen global emissions. And they've actually not giving farmers credit for all the good stuff that they're doing to offset their emissions. That's utterly unfair, so we don't support that whatsoever.
Is there a way to work the scheme in your perspective that wouldn't include charging farmers for livestock emissions?
Look, again, we have to really we have to stop what the government's doing, and we have to be able to go back to the drawing board with the sector and actually work out how we actually pace our way through it over a number of years going forward. It is really important that we align it with technological advance and research and development. There is amazing things going on in this country in this space around emissions, and I've been to a number of places and seen amazing scientists and researchers doing some incredible things. And if you think about how farmers now farm today versus how they did it 5 years, 10 years, 15 years ago, it's a really dynamic and constantly evolving place. I'm always amazed by this industry because I think as a young person setting out in New Zealand, it's a pretty cool industry to be part of because there's so many moving parts and so many interesting things to do. So look, we've got to get back to industry consensus and having it sector and industry led and paced in the right way.
I might be hearing you wrong here, Chris, but in layman's terms, so if a better proposal is put forward that perhaps has come through consultation with the farmers, National would be open to not charging farmers in the future for emissions?
What we've said from the beginning, and we said many years, several years ago, is we want an industry and a sector-led approach. We want it to come from the bottom up, not from the top down.
Sorry to interrupt. If the sector does say, look, the main thing we want is we're happy to do, plant more trees, we're happy to do a lot of different things, but we don't want to be charged for our livestock emissions, and that comes from the ground up, as you say. Is that something National?
Well, there's some pretty simple policies. We do not want to destroy our food production. We do not want to be able to see livelihoods destroyed like the way that they are being. We do not want to see carbon emissions around the world get worse because we're moving production offshore, and we want farmers to get 100% credit for sequestration that they're doing on farm as well. So there's quite a lot of principles, but again, the answer is to go back to an industry developed solution from the ground up, and whatever that they want to do, we're happy to work with them to actually bring that to life. Okay, can I say any other questions, or you're good?
There is one around the Hawke's, just on Hawke's Bay. You were here just a couple of months ago. I understand we're getting closer to perhaps naming some candidates for next year's election. Where's that at?
So I mean, again, we want to compete really strongly here in the Napier and Tuki electorates, and so we're in the process of going through, we'll kick that off in the next coming months, going through what we call our selection processes. Of course, that's the responsibility of our local electorates in the ground here in the Hawke's Bay. We've got great volunteers, great supporters, great members, great leaders, and they will make the best decision for finding the best, most talented individual candidate that can represent this area incredibly well. All I just say to you is, up and down this country, people are over this government. It's spin over delivery, it's wasteful spending, it's concentration and control, it's a lot of identity politics, and people want this country to move on with a lot more positivity and ambition and aspiration, and the only way to do that is to 2 ticks blue in 2023. All right, thanks so much for your time. Appreciate it. Take care. Thank you, guys. Good to see you, mate. Thanks. farmers, and the country should back our farmers like we back the All Blacks and the world's best. With that, happy to take questions.
Yeah, just on the farmers, what do you make of the Groundswell protest today around the country?
Oh, look, it's symptomatic of immense frustration. It's not just agricultural